So the freedom solves problems. We have freedom here in the United States of America and have as many problems as a place where you got to do hard labor for not saying, yes, sir, Mr. Master, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Supreme Leader. Yes, Mr. Dictator. Yes, Mr. whatever their name is, so I don't get attacked for saying some leader in the world's name out loud and not pronouncing it correctly or saying it with the wrong tone of voice, because we're so interconnected now in the whole planet. But there was a great philosopher and spiritual teacher named Krishnamurti, and he talked a lot about freedom. And still I think is one of my favorite practitioners. And freedom, unfortunately, gets described as a word and gets easily taken and called stuff like socialism. We all gotta share, we all gotta give, we all gotta let people have a place to live, we all gotta not do these kinds of gestures. They're racist. But also remember not to do what I'm doing now, because it could be distracting and it might make someone upset. Those two parts of what a body can do, causing problems and making someone upset, and then all of those behavioral directions from the person in charge's brain limits what racism limits, except still lets the body and the brain and the mind work together. But not as freely as a consciousness with freedom. So then how would you get to that consciousness with freedom and not have someone bossing you around and not having someone listen to what you're saying, watch what you're doing, and stare at you because they're in charge? If you're taking a deep breath, exhale, and listen to the noise outside, listen to the silence, in between. Sure, there's noise outside and there's noise in other places where I'm making this video. But if you're gone in the same place and looked and listened and thought about the sound, Because the people in charge with these rules about hands and gestures and words and stuff, they're looking and they're following their consciousness, their visual brain consciousness, where they start to imagine and they want it nice how they believe it should look. But not fair for a schizophrenic who just sees just all the time, and hears all the time. Whereas, okay, you can look for the silence, hear the silence, find the silence, and then take a breath and exhale. Don't kill yourself by suffocating. That would be horrible. But when you exhale, when you inhale, whatever your routine is, there's an opportunity to solve the problem we're talking about with racism all the time. The silence doesn't occur for pleasure. The silence that's being looked for, being searched for, being sought and listened for, benefits the brain, the body, and especially the mind with its calm, with its truth, with its peace. And a lot like this black coffee that I made this morning, it's greatness. It's awesomeness. I mean, good gosh, you ever take some cold brew coffee, freaking sips in the morning, you're like, and have you ever sat in silence in a monastery and meditated with a spiritual leader who's not scary, not terrifying, but one of the most peaceful people you've ever been around in your life, like His Holiness the Dalai Lama? And then the whole discussion wraps up into, well, then why do we still have stuff? If it's as simple as I'm saying right now in these sentences, why do we still have racism? Why do we still have bullying? Why do we still have people so afraid of these activities like silence? And my response has to do with history, has to do with time, has to do with memory, has to do, unfortunately, I think, a little bit with culture. Slavery in the past, these organizations of anger and resentment and nastiness, KKK, Nazis, and even currently with Antifa and Donald Trump supporters, Republicans in Antifa, far left revolutionaries who want a better world. Those conditions in the past, in the history, in our memories, and even the culture of the present with people that harm one another have been restricted. Presently, You start being a terrorist, and the government will come over with their organization to let you know you're not going to be able to just take advantage of the good parts and cause evil to the people who are using the good parts and maybe are just not as smart as those violent criminals, but don't want to be hurt because they haven't figured it out yet. And they never had an iPhone like I have now to make a video in the middle of Germany. Viktor Frankl did not have a notebook to keep track of his psychiatry. Frantz Fanon did not have community house, mental health housing with Social Security. Carl Jung did not have a Lenovo laptop with Microsoft Windows. But now we can say, end part 1.